I'm gonna say Bitcoin's a no-brainer. I think it's got a lot of room to grow. I mean, talk to the experts out there. People are truly calling for the moon, and I think that is going to be the long-term trajectory.
Hey, what's shaking? Welcome back to the All In Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Jordan. Today, I have Nicholas Prouten. This dude, decade of experience in the tech sector and a half a decade in the blockchain industry. I'm really excited to talk about crypto with him. And he's worked in a wide array of industries, though, ranging from cybersecurity, gaming, real estate, entertainment, and of course, blockchain. And today, I'm excited to get this clear and simple understanding and then also dive into some of the more specifics. So, Nick, my man, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm pumped, man. There's a lot to talk about today.
Absolutely.
To talk about. But brother, where we could start, please, is just this general, simple understanding of blockchain, Bitcoin, because it's sort of mysterious and there's not a lot of grasp around this topic yet. So can you explain that simply?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge industry. It's a huge opportunity, but really at its core, what blockchain is about is democratizing your money and getting bringing a type of transparency and immutability to the world that you haven't really seen with money before. So what does that really mean? It means that, whereas many currencies out in the world today, arguably most of the world's fiat currencies, are controlled by a small body of people that have the ability to, create quantitative easing, create inflation, reduce the value of your dollar. Now you have something that is scarce that, there can't be any more of that in the world today. And in addition to that, you're creating greater transparency and greater visibility into what is happening with that money. And it creates for a really interesting prospect where we no longer need a lot of middlemen that exist in the existing system to take a penny here and take a penny there. And you, as a result, as the consumer of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, you get better money out of the whole situation, and you get less money taken away from you in the process.
Man, that's a great perspective. As you're talking about that, because you're saying that there's scarcity in this because there's a finite number of Bitcoin, if we're talking about Bitcoin specifically, really, or probably any crypto. With that, because I guess one could maybe argue that there's even like a finite amount of gold that's in the world. And you go back to the 1940s in the US to where there was actually enough gold around, physical gold, to back every single US dollar that existed. And of course, now that's blown out of the water because of the national debt that the United States is in.
Well, I would even argue that's the reason why you have so much debt is you basically walked away from the dollar to, I mean, there's a little speculation on here, but essentially fund the Vietnam War. And look what that has done to your money. It's lost 96% of its purchasing power in 100 years. I remember being a kid going to the store, can of soda cost me $1. I go to the store now, it costs me $2. Like, what the heck? What happened there?
So which of that is inflation versus the value of the dollar itself?
I mean, the United States especially is one of the largest economies in the world, right? So I think inflation plays a very big hand in that. Certainly not all of it, but based on what I'm seeing and what I've seen in the world, it is largely in part due to inflation. But going back to something you were talking about a little bit earlier, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and blockchain are really, really exciting technologies. But it's important to distinguish that not all blockchain is a cryptocurrency, right? Really what this technology is it's a ledger, and it's a ledger that is shared between multiple computers. And allows us to have a greater insight and a greater security around this ledger and how it moves forward. And again, getting rid of that manipulation. So there's a lot of different use cases for that. And I know that's a bit of a backtrack, but I just wanted to provide that little clarity because crypto can sometimes carry some stigma around it. And I'm hoping we can dispel some of that today.
Oh, I hope so too, because it is crypto does have this mysterious shroud around it. But when you're talking about blockchain and all the different applications, I mean, you have a background in cybersecurity, so do I. That's what my company that's going public this year. And blockchain, I can see one of the biggest applications for it because when you set it to ledger, right? I love it because I can see it hopefully at some point in time to where it's used in mass in the medical industry for medical records, for electronic health records. That's one place
that's a fantastic use case. Sorry to cut you off there.
You're good, man. I got you excited, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's for 2017 was the last time cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin were really front and center in the market. And you saw tons of coins come out that virtually had no practical application to them. And surprise, surprise, most of them pumped and dumped into oblivion. Versus something like medical records, virtual identities, real estate transactions, and commodities like the project that I work on, LODE, which deals with digitizing gold and silver and turning that into a medium of exchange. All of these are really, really practical applications that have real world value. And I think now that we're seeing more adoption in the market and sort of a return to the forefront, that maturity is starting to come forward in the industry. And that for me is something I'm so pumped over.
Man, same here. Because from a security perspective, blockchain blows my mind because you can trace every single bit of data that goes from one point to another point to another point to another point. And it's what they call in the medical industry as chain of custody. You know, and when that chain of custody is broken, that's how you know that there's a data breach. And then at least in the United States, you get regulatory bodies that come and slam you with things like HIPAA, like the HIPAA Act. But today, there's next to almost no way to prove some of that stuff versus you have blockchain, which can facilitate an almost impenetrable chain of custody. It's pretty cool.
Exactly. That immutability, that impenetrability, so to speak, is something that is really core to distributed ledger technology. And it gets me excited as well, for all the reasons that you just stated.
That's awesome. So tell me about, because I might get into a little bit on Warren Buffett here, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
I'm sure you have your views. I mean, that guy, he's obviously he's amazing at managing a portfolio that he was given. Right, because he inherited these huge sums of money, and he's managed it extremely well. And he sees the patterns. I mean, he's able to invest and everything. But I remember reading quotes about crypto from him, and one of the biggest ones that really stuck out at me was, "It's not real. It's not something that I can actually go and have." And he was even trying to argue, like stock certificates in a company, that's even something that you physically can hold is like a stock certificate. Yeah, and nowadays everything's digitized, whatever. So, but still, him saying that it's not real, therefore it will go away. How do you feel about something like that, and how do you combat an argument like that?
I mean, I think it's a sign of the times. Nothing but ultimate respect to Warren Buffett. He is an absolute legend. But we are a constantly evolving society, even before the existence of blockchain. I go ask Warren Buffett to go hold his entire net worth. Like, sure, it's a paper dollar bill, but that paper dollar bill is just a figurative representation of value, right? And blockchain is no different. Anything can have value as long as we choose to put a value upon that object. It doesn't matter whether it's gold or silver or seashells, as much as the world's history has proven. So, when he's making statements like it's not real, it's kind of it kind of dates him a little bit, if I'm being honest, because it's
straight
like,
truth, man. That's all.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm probably gonna take some shots for that one, but but one of the other things about Warren Buffett that I always respected is that he doesn't invest in things that he doesn't understand, and to him, it's not something that he really gets, so he's not going to put a ton of weight behind it, and that to me is the ultimate sign of a true investor. You have a lot of people today who are just, jumping on the bandwagon, remortgaging their homes, throwing it all on red, going all in, but they don't really understand what they're going all in on. And it's such an important thing to do. And so, yeah, that's my perspective on that.
That is a danger zone too, isn't it? I mean, like you said, you're leveraging pretty much everything that you have to ride this bubble. And we talked about that a little bit too, because just like any other market, this is pre-show, just like any market, there's always pumps and then there's bursts. And then at some point, right on.
Yeah.
Where do you see that go? Because I mean, when was the last time Bitcoin was at like $3,000? That was...
Oh God. I think it went down to like $3,000, like 2018, 2019 time area. I mean, don't quote me on that, but 2017 was the top of the bubble. And now we're in a bull market that's fairly apparent. You have a lot more institutional capital being thrown around right now. Players like Tesla entering the market, PayPal, going live with cryptocurrency on their platforms, right? So right now we're in a boom cycle, but nothing goes up forever. Anybody that thinks it's going to go up forever is totally bonkers, and you need to plan accordingly for that. It doesn't mean that it's going to go to zero, but markets move in cycles. This is a well understood principle, and so you need to be always bearing that in mind when you're investing and when you're trading. You can't always time the market, but you can always make your best efforts to diversify your portfolio, which is why, if I can be so bold, I highly recommend exploring alternatives to cryptocurrencies that are stabilized, tried and true and tested, things like gold and silver. Bitcoin has highly outperformed gold in this last cycle. However, the numbers don't lie, and gold is one of the oldest forms of stores of value in the entire planet, and you can't mess with that kind of stability. And so that's part of the vision that the LODE project tries to bring to the forefront, by making these assets that might be considered kind of like your granddad's assets. They're sitting in a sock drawer collecting dust, and bringing them to the modern world and using this new technology to make it accessible for people.
That's cool. Can you dive a little more into that, what the LODE project does specifically?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I mentioned before, gold and silver have been one of the world's longest forms of stores of value, as well as mediums of exchange. And there's a certain level of confidence and security during times of crisis. If you look back on history, you'll see that gold and silver are things that investors naturally flock to. But one of the things that we've lost over the years is the ability to use it functionally, because we're not pirates and we don't carry around bags of we don't carry around bags of coins in our, right? It's not practical. And it's hard to get down to the gram, milligram denominations for some of the things that trade and commerce require. So here comes blockchain technology and allows us to have an audited and insured denomination of gold and silver. And gives it the same flexibility and the same function as straight up cash, right? And so LODE has this vision of restoring silver and gold to the monetary system in a meaningful way, because while we in Western countries have the benefit and the privilege of having fairly stable economies and fairly stable currencies, there are lots of places in the world that are suffering from hyperinflation, where their money is virtually worthless. And sure, you could trade the USD, but without getting too political, there's been a fair amount of instability in the United States, even just in the past year alone. Who knows? 2020 was a wild year with the pandemic, and now it seems like we're escalating from one global crisis a month to 4. So you might as well, take a look at these stores of values that have proven themselves across generations, and do what you can to get yourself into them. And that's really what LODE, where the heart of it is at.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I'd love to look at the contrast between those stables of gold and silver to Bitcoin as an example now. Because going back to the Warren Buffett analogy, you can physically hold gold, you can physically hold silver. And I remember a friend of mine who was doubling down on the jewelry store. This was pre-pandemic, but he was going into it and he was a little scared, because it's almost like he could sense that like something was coming, right? And his partner in that, when I was talking to him, he's like, you got to go all in. We've got to double down on the store and just rock this thing. So he convinced him to put $5 million into gold and diamonds, for the store. And the thing that really like got him to finally do it, he's like, well, what if the store goes belly up and all this stuff? And his partner was like, so we just sell the gold and diamonds, because it's gold and diamonds.
Diamonds, yeah.
It's like, we're not going to lose value by doing this. We're just like getting the raw materials we need to make the jewelry to sell it. Worst comes to worst, we can just literally liquidate.
Absolutely. And that's you're right. That's one of the most advantageous things about a stabilized asset, like gold and silver, like commodities, versus Bitcoin, where, sure, it's proven itself to be a great store of value now, but, market sentiment changes, and all of a sudden the only thing backing it is the faith people have in it, and it collapses. And that's part of the thing that the crypto market really loves. Like those volatility swings that you can see on a regular basis make for great, wealth generation opportunities if you're timing the market right. But that's basically, you might as well go to, a casino and roll the dice on that. So there is a real case to be made for the fact that this is something tangible that has true value. Silver is one of the biggest commodities in the world. Everything that we're presently looking at each other on right now uses silver. The microphone uses silver. Your car uses silver. Everything has silver in it, making it, inherently valuable. And, gold is not too far off the mark from that as well. So
yeah, or palladium nowadays too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think
these rare metals that people never even heard of before are literally in everything.
Exactly. And I mean, those precious metals, new ones will come to the service as they become relevant to sort of the market psychology. And blockchain is really a great avenue for providing that to an investor class, but also a consumer class of people as a way of diversifying your wealth. So rather than having to be dependent on the strength of an economy, you now have the ability to diversify your wealth in ways that are not as easily accessible historically, and beyond that, instantly liquidate back to fiat without as much risk as perhaps trading in stocks.
For sure. Can you give everyone just a simplistic view of the history of Bitcoin? Because I mean, whenever you talk about crypto, obviously Bitcoin is the household name. Well, how did that start? And that was the first too, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one. I mean, there were a couple predecessors, but nothing as well formulated as Bitcoin. And really, around 2011 or so, Satoshi Nakamoto, did the genesis block of Bitcoin, and it largely existed in circles. And I mean, for backing it up a little bit, Satoshi Nakamoto, there's a fair amount of anonymity. To this day, it remains a mystery of who done it.
Who exactly he is, yeah.
Yeah, who is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they, right? There's a fair level of mystery around that. And there have been some people that have come to the forefront and said, it was I who lit the blaze, but there's been no confirmed evidence that is in fact the real Satoshi Nakamoto. And so for, the 2011 period up to, I think maybe it was 2013 or 14, but don't quote me on the specifics there, you saw Bitcoin take its first leap. I think it made it up to the $1,000 mark, and everybody was losing their minds over that. Like, wow, this currency had really come to life. But then it largely, stayed pretty quiet up until that 2017 boom. And, fun little story. The first transaction for physical goods that was done with Bitcoin was for a pizza, of all things, which oddly, I don't know,
really? That I didn't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just the industry, the fact that it was with tech, but pizza and Bitcoin seemed like a good combination.
Do we know the toppings though? I mean, that's the real news, right?
That's the real thing. Well, how about this? I think it was well over 10,000 Bitcoin that they traded it for.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh yeah. Right. I hope that guy didn't throw it away.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because he'd be set up for life now. One pizza delivery tip, makes your life. Yeah. And then from there, we went into the sort of crypto boom of 2017, where it really came to the forefront, and you started seeing competitors like Ethereum begin to emerge. And that was fantastic, but there still wasn't a lot of maturity in the market yet. There was also no regulation. So it was the closest thing to like a wild, wild west experience that for many people, they've probably witnessed in their lifetimes. And the rest from that point on is kind of like old news. We've seen the market grow and mature over time. Regulators come to terms with this technology and what it means, and we've seen a huge disruption in the financial space. Traditional banking and legacy banking systems are being challenged by this, and this scares them, which is why you see some countries clamping down so aggressively, like India, for example, on it, because they don't know how to coexist yet with this technology.
Yeah. What's the biggest threat to Bitcoin or crypto in general right now to it becoming really hugely and massively adopted?
I mean, it depends where you look at it. Regulators are always a risk. You could just indefinitely say, we're going to criminally pursue anybody that holds these assets. That's a big, scary dystopian scenario. I think a greater risk is actually blockchain itself to an extent. I don't know if you tried to use a crypto wallet back in 2017 or back when all these assets were first coming live. It was not intuitive.
Yeah.
It was like a learning curve, like running into a brick wall. It was just painful for some people, and it takes a while for people to wrap their heads around the concept of how a blockchain works. And so, by comparison, you go to the store, you pay with your credit card, you don't even think about it. You're just like, yeah, you're not going, oh, this credit card is on a blockchain, and you're just like tap, pay, done, over. And to the same extent, blockchain as an industry needs to get to that point where people aren't really even thinking about it anymore. It just works. It's just intuitive. And when you can crack that nut, I really think you're going to see mass consumer adoption on a global scale.
Yeah. The roads and the infrastructure, to use that metaphor, are not really built yet. Yeah, so it's like you're Henry Ford and you built the car, but you have nowhere to fricking drive it right now.
Well said. Good metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's going to get there too, but we've got all these amazing things. But then there's of course Tesla, who jumps in and they're talking. They jump into the market and then they're saying now they're going to accept Bitcoin for purchases of any of their vehicles, So I mean, they're starting to lay those roads, which is awesome. Do you see other companies like Apple, large big tech jumping on board like Tesla did?
I think it's inevitable, to be honest. I think if you follow your nose and you follow the money, all of the world's major financial institutions are beginning to invest in blockchain technology. JP Morgan Chase would go on, say Bitcoin's a scam, then swoop up a huge amount of Bitcoin, and they have a blockchain team of over 50 people. PayPal recently, issued their cryptocurrency solution for their users as well. And so I think you're already beginning to see this adoption happen. Apple, again, it's an inevitability, because I think we are getting close to that point. That infrastructure, I wouldn't say we're not right at the start. I'd say the starting line was 2017, and now we're kind of getting into the I would say either midway point or just past midway point of the early adoption cycle. With any luck, it'll be 10, 15 years. It'll be my kids are talking about, remember when you used Bitcoin? Wow, like you're such a dinosaur.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point too, because I mean, what comes after this? Because everything in this life has a life cycle to it. That it comes and goes.
Oh man. I mean, I lay awake in bed at night thinking about that scenario. I think one time I was like, what if blockchain is just Blu-ray DVDs?
Yeah.
Sure. But there's a certain amount of future proofing that goes on with that. And that's, again, one of the benefits of something that is backed by real purpose and real value. So if you're a commodity, it doesn't matter whether you're on a blockchain or you're not on a blockchain, because the real value is the asset itself. How that is represented in the technology used to represent that is relevant. And or if it's a medical record, if we find what's important there is the medical record, the application of the technology, more so necessarily than the technology itself. The technology, don't get me wrong, is fantastic. It's an important leap forward for our system. But if something superior were to come along, so long as the real value and the use case is there, then what's there to worry about?
Yeah, for sure. You look in the news, and I'm talking specifically from like a general consumer, I guess broadly from a general consumer perspective now, because all you see is what's in the news about how high it goes, and then how much it drops, and then it starts to go back up, and then it skyrockets again. So everyone looks at Bitcoin from a consumer perspective, like the average everyday individual, thinking, oh, this could be a financial opportunity for me. You and I get geeked out a little bit about the tech behind it, of course, because of what goes into it and all the different use cases for blockchain. But what takes over the news, man, is freaking crypto and Bitcoin. It's as simple as that.
Oh, it's easy to understand why too. Like, let me just say it clearly. This has been one of the biggest wealth generation events of all time. We're talking about raising up entire populations of people to, and lifting them into prosperity. That's incredible. You don't really get to witness that type of event happen many times in a lifetime. So it's no wonder that people are so excited about getting in on this opportunity, even if they don't fully understand it. That's okay. I mean, the first step, I would say, is the enthusiasm, and the second step is the education and understanding the greater application of it.
For sure. Just anybody, general consumer, if they want to get in on Bitcoin, what are the easy steps that you would tell them? Where do you start?
I mean, it depends on what country you're in, but there are the go-tos, there are the Coinbases, and very quickly LODE as well. You can check us out at LODE.one. You'll be able to just register and purchase Bitcoin instantaneously. What people need to understand is, as well as just like you would have at a traditional financial institution, there's a little bit of getting to know each other that happens between a platform and the individual, making sure you're not a fraud or a bad actor. But those things are so minor and so easy to pass through. You can get them done in like 30 seconds to a minute. And beyond that, it's just a matter of pumping in the credit card and making that commitment, committing to diversifying your portfolio and taking a riskier bet, or if you're feeling like taking a soft serve into the market, you could always go for digital gold and silver. And, when you're ready, convert to Bitcoin and time the market.
That's awesome. Is mining still an option?
Mining still an option? Well, I would definitely agree to that. For me, I work more on the technology side than on the specifics of mining in the industry of mining. But the two exist in a symbiotic relationship, right? And the demand for these metals is going to continue to increase. Especially as as new green technology begins to get adopted. So I would say I would defer to, more long-term experts like David Morgan, who is one of the big ambassadors for our project, for particular insights and picks. But I think it's, I would definitely agree that the mining industry, it's not going anywhere. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So
yeah, right on. There's a couple of stories I've seen in media recently that, this dude had like a hard drive or something like that, and it was somewhere in the United States. They got buried in the bottom of a landfill, and he was even offering the city, because apparently it was worth like $1 billion. I don't remember what, but he was offering the city half of that, and the city, whatever municipality it was like, no, because it's just going to take too much effort, and we just don't feel like it. They didn't grasp the concept of it or anything. How much crypto do you think is actually lost that's out there?
At this point, billions. This is going back to what I was talking about crypto being its own enemy sometimes, in that intuitive nature that came with the raw technology. Is you have a lot more autonomy over your finances, but that comes with a greater responsibility, meaning that if you lose your private keys to your wallet and you're not part of a centralized exchange, then that's it. You're hooped. There's no getting your money back. There's no calling tech support. That's it. And I know, I know personally, I remember when my brother got given a Bitcoin for Christmas one year, and he was like, I can't figure this thing out, whatever, loses the keys. Of course, flash forward 2021, and he's like, I can't find the keys. Like, why did I do that? Who knew? Who could have predicted? But it's like, that's it. You can't do anything about it. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but that the trade-off for that responsibility again is that there's no middlemen. Going to the Wall Street bet situation that happened, where all of a sudden, they're like, oh, you were going to limit how much GME you can buy and sell. When you have your own crypto wallet in which you control the keys to, there's nobody can stop you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's the beauty of it too, and also the danger into it itself. Yeah. It almost self-sabotages in some way.
It can, but some very, and that's part of the learning curve. Some very basic practices of having a backup of your private key stored in a safe, secure place that you can touch. Since that seems to be a recurring theme throughout today's talk. Yeah.
There you go, Warren.
There's Warren.
That's all he needs, right?
Yeah. Bitcoin isn't real, but my private key is. So I'm just going to tuck that.
Put it with your stock certificates.
Exactly, and you're safe. So some basic good best practices will go a long way, and it's part of the learning curve. So again, that's part of the value of looking before you leap in the market.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm excited because there's a lot of potential as I see over the next couple of years, but who knows? Maybe I could go the way of Blu-ray DVD, like you said.
Certainly hope not.
Yeah, I know. Same here. But what are some of the best, maybe just the top 2 or 3 of cryptos to invest in 2021?
Well, I mean, I'm obviously biased. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say our LODE token is a fantastic opportunity. It is an equity asset it is an opportunity for somebody to get on the ground floor of a payment system that is built at its foundation with this blockchain technology at its core. Versus other legacy systems that have been around for a while and are now trying to like desperately understand and adopt this. So, and that's an incredible opportunity in of itself. Beyond that, I'm gonna say Bitcoin's a no-brainer. I think it's got a lot of room to grow. I mean, talk to the experts out there. People are truly calling for the moon, and I think that is going to be the long-term trajectory. It's probably going to go through some corrections, but you got to have diamond hands, as they're saying on the Wall Street bets, and just have faith in the process. And but my other favorite asset out there is really Ethereum. Ethereum has been such a powerful blockchain because it essentially is like the equivalency of an operating system almost. People can build upon Ethereum and create tokens and assets that suit their needs as a corporation, as a institution, for the medical records, for real estate transactions, and the advent of smart contracts, which allow for more than just simple buy sell experiences. I look at that like Apple pre iPhone. That's where I think Ethereum is right now. The potential for we all wish we got in on that one, right? And I truly do feel when the market truly understands the value that Ethereum is bringing to the table, that'll be again one of the biggest wealth generation opportunities of our lifetime. So those are obviously maybe sounding a little bit plain. They're sounding a little bit plain, a little bit generic, but really, really at this point in the market, those are what's getting me most excited. And they also have some of the least amount of controversy around them. Like, sure, there's a little bit of drama. Who is the real Satoshi Nakamoto? And sure, Ethereum has, high fees right now, but those things will get solved in time, making it a lot more practical. And versus something like Tron, where you got the founder being called a scam artist, and you look at the politics and the controversy of some of the players in this space, and nothing gives me more confidence than those two assets, and of course LODE.
Yeah, right on. And dude, tell me about LODE a little bit more, because I understand what it is, and I think everybody grasps it. But where can they go? What's the easiest way to get involved? What's the barrier to entry?
Barrier to entry is whatever you can afford, and really any savvy investor will tell you only invest what you can afford to lose. Right, the bottom line. But it's really, really easy to get involved. We're a really friendly community, active in over 100 different countries. We've been doing this since 2017. You just go to LODE.one, and you can either talk with support directly on there. No need for registry. You can join our Telegram channel. Again, you can talk to myself directly or any of the thousands of people that are part of our community. And you can go ahead and create an account in about 30 seconds. So it's really a frictionless, easy system to get onboarded to. And it can be a great first step into the blockchain ecosystem with a group of people that are really going to be there to help lift you up and not kind of just leave you swimming in the ocean to figure it out for yourself.
That's awesome. Then one thing I would love you to leave with everybody today too. How do you feel about the Coinbase IPO and where that's going to end up?
I haven't given too much thought on it, to be honest, but I will say that I think it's a positive for the industry. Seeing this kind of behavior, this traditional behavior with blockchain companies, one that were not so long ago viewed as, a problem or, as not a real legitimate institution, to see them reach that level of confidence in the market and with the financial markets overall. I think it really signifies maturity in the industry, maturity in the market, maturity as blockchain as a technology, and ultimately, I think it means good things are coming for the industry. Again, without having dive too deep into it, that's what I see there. I mean, compare that quickly to something like Libra, which would actually disturb me, and given the amount of And not just from a regulatory standpoint. If you look at something like Libra, like Facebook is guilty of so much antitrust lawsuits. They'll sell your information to the highest bidder, and now they want to control the world's money. Like, come on, man. Gotta leave it. Can't do everything, right?
No
so
doubt.
compared to that, something like Coinbase, it illustrates that blockchain technology can be done in a compliant and regulated manner that is, true to the core of blockchain and still at the same time playing by the rules.
Yeah. It's really cool because there's those that can kind of blaze that trail for LODE even, because it legitimizes everything that's going on. It brings that level to it, which is exciting. And as an encouragement to you too, I don't remember who had this quote, but it was something along the lines of, the one who starts the revolution never retains the power. So if you can be the one that rides the wave behind it, that was kind of the moral of that quote. If you can be the one that rides the wave behind it, you're the one that will be able to sustain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because Bitcoin really cracked open the walnut for everybody, it really brought that to the forefront. And in a similar sense, Coinbase was one of the first to markets in a truly UI, UX friendly environment. And the industry is evolving so rapidly that I think the proof is in the pudding there, right? I think the wave is being ridden, and it's exciting. With decentralized finance and technology like that coming to the forefront now, you're giving investors and individuals the ability to participate in things that have historically been exclusively for the extremely wealthy, right? But now these people can participate in the same behaviors and reap the benefits of it. So I just think that's incredible.
I love it. Everyone go to LODE.one. Because that is where I'm going to be headed right after this too, because I want to check things out and I want to get involved too. Digitizing gold and silver, come on now. Nick, my man, thanks for being on. I appreciate your insight. Everyone does, and thanks for simplifying everything too, man.
Well, I certainly hope that everybody enjoyed what they heard on today. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you guys, Rick. And yeah, thank you so much and take care.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
man.
That
was bud? Yeah.
To be honest, I'm usually on the other side of the chair. We have our own little media channel. So it's been an interesting exercise to be in the interviewee seat for once.
That's cool, man. I hope it made it interesting for you. I try to ask the questions that nobody else does. Yeah.
No, those are fantastic questions, and really high level stuff as well. Like I confess a little bit of concern going in, like what kind of punches is this guy gonna pull? But no, that was a lot of fun, man. Thank you. Yeah, I really hope that one or two things that I said stuck with people and I can at least convey the enthusiasm I have for the space, because it's I don't know, it's really exciting stuff, man. Like the fact that Have you taken a look at, you sound like you are a little more, educated in the space. Have you taken a look at some of the stuff that like BlockFi is doing and stuff like that? Like you're getting.
No, I haven't dove into BlockFi much.
Oh my God. So this movement of decentralized finance is incredible. Basically, consumers are putting up their own liquidity pools for institutions to take advantage of. And they're getting massive returns, as much as 25% guaranteed returns.
Wow.
Like 9% on my USD, paid out, monthly. And it's like, you're not gonna see that in a traditional dividend market,
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's institutionalized finance that are diving into these liquidity pools.
Oh yeah. Check them out. BlockFi had $100 million raise.
Wow.
It's completely regulated in the United States, and you can get 6% paid out in Ethereum annually based on the Ethereum you hold. I think it's same amount for Bitcoin as well. So if you're somebody who was able to get into Bitcoin at 3,000 and you hold 10 of those and you're generating 5% on that, just, regularly just sitting in there, that compounding interest is incredible. So as Bitcoin continues to moon, so does the value of your, it's almost like a drip program, but with blockchain technology. So like that kind of stuff that's starting to come out now is really, really fascinating. Anyways, I'm rambling. I'll cap it out there.
That's good, brother. We're still recording too, so I think we're just going to dump that in there too. That's awesome. It's fun capturing the post show. What's shaking? Thank you for joining me on the All In Podcast. Click the subscribe button and smash that bell for notifications. Text me 312-535-8520. Follow me on social media at Mr. Rick Jordan. See you next episode. I am Rick Jordan, and I approve this message.